in the back. Sounds fairly loud up here, but they do a pretty good job in this room of actually not reverberating too much, so we like that. And let me hit a button over here real quick. Here. And now that's on our recording, which is perfect. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. I know it's almost afternoon, and I apologize for the mix-up on saying there wouldn't be food, but what a good surprise, right? We got some. It's been a busy couple weeks at the Retiree Center, and we're so happy that you're all here. And this is our first meeting in a long time that's just in person. It's not hybrid. We are recording it for later consumption, so sorry to the folks watching this recording. But it was important for us to get back together, and we've got some voting to do for the Emeriti Association and Retirees Association Day, and wanted to be able to do that in person. So Chancellor May, we're thrilled that you're able to join us. John, Joanne, we're happy that you're speaking. Sue Barnes will be joining us a little bit later. So we've got a full agenda for you, and Mike and Marcy will lead the association meetings later on. But to keep us on track here, it's my pleasure to introduce Chancellor Gary May. Chancellor May is a highly engaged leader with a passion for helping others succeed. He believes success is best judged by how we enhance the lives of others. And I think there's no better example than what Chancellor May has done at UC Davis in his time here. His time and my time overlap quite a bit. I came back 4 years ago, and he's beat me by a year or so. And it's been exciting to see the changes on campus. And I think you agree with me that we're very, very confident in the direction of Davis and the leadership that we have. So it's awesome to be here. And he's been a great supporter of retirees and Emeriti as long as I've been in this role. So thank you, Chancellor May, for that. We'll bring you up.
Thank you, Kyle. Always good to be with you. Always, and even better to be in person again. After such a long hiatus, many ups and downs during these past 2 years of pandemic, I hope everyone's doing well and enjoying this opportunity to reconnect. I'd say that even in the midst of all the struggle, the university is continuing to flourish. From breaking records toward building the future, we are truly outgrowing expectations. That's what the marketing art says. I'm supposed to say that. But truly, if you walk around, if you have a chance to walk around campus, it's as normal as it has been in 2 years. There's still, we still have not a mandate, but we have a strongly recommended direction with respect to masks. And the students, particularly in class, are taking that to heart. They have their masks on in class. And last month, we celebrated the in-person return of Picnic Day. We had about 70,000 people throughout the day, in and out at our annual open house. And the most important thing for me, Picnic Day is a day where I have my finger hovering over the speed dial button for Chief Farrell. And neither of us really had to call each other. So we didn't have any incidents, even with the 70,000 people and all the stuff that went on. Went as smoothly as we could have hoped for. It was clear that everyone was happy to be back, and our neighbors are glad to be back together for that event. This weekend, we just had Whole Earth Festival. Similar, glad tidings, nothing untoward. Looking forward to commencements beginning Friday. School of Medicine is our first one up, and then Saturday, law school. And then the undergraduate commencements will have 3 ceremonies, June 10, 11, 12, in UC Davis Health Stadium. So we've changed the format where I used to have to go to large numbers, double-digit number of undergraduate commencements that were held at the pavilion, to now we're just doing 3 very large commencements at the stadium. If you're curious about speakers, the first speaker is Francisco Rodriguez, Chancellor of the Los Angeles Community College District. By the way, all of our speakers are alums at the request of our student government. Second day, the speaker is retiring U.S. Representative Jackie Spear. Thank you. She's retiring after 14 years in Congress. And then the final day on Sunday, Alfred Schwang, former CEO of BEA Systems and founder of the venture fund Race Capital, also is a member of my board of advisors as in Smart Cities. She knows Alfred well. So while campus is bustling once again, we can continue to be a model for practicing healthy behavior. As I mentioned, mask mandate was relaxed in the beginning of spring quarter. Our positivity rate continues to be low. There's been a bit of an uptick, but we're hovering around 1%. I think I looked yesterday, it was maybe up to 1.5, compared to the rest of the city and the county and the surrounding area, which is around 3. UC Davis Hospital was down in the single digits of COVID patients for a long time, but I think that's also maybe back up to low double digits, like 11 or 12, something like that. I have to look. So, you know, we're not out of the woods for sure with respect to the pandemic, but we think we're at a manageable place. And we're certainly happy that we've been able to have Healthy Davis together with our friends and colleagues in the city. That's our joint initiative to prevent the spread of COVID-19 on the community. Kaiser Health News published a story in March that ran actually on the front page of the Sacramento Bee. Now, UC Davis has been on the front page of the Bee from time to time. Usually not for good news. Some of you will remember some of those times. But they posed the question of why other college towns haven't created similar programs as Healthy Davis together. And I'll just give you one quote from the article. It said, more than a year and a half in, this experiment, a cooperative project placing a university and its adjoining city inside a single coordinated health bubble, has delivered superior results. So that was what the Bee said, so it must be true. In other good news, in February, we had a symbolic groundbreaking for Aggie Square in Sacramento. And then last month we had a real groundbreaking. The fences are up and heavy machinery is in and they're demolishing what was there on that parking lot. Aggie Square, as you know, is our partnership with the city of Sacramento and our developer, Wexford Science and Technology. Construction, as I said, is underway. The best case scenario has construction finishing and the doors opening December of 2024. We'll see. We expect Aggie Square to be the ultimate innovation ecosystem, part laboratory, classroom, workplace, business incubator, and a community gathering place. It will inject $5 billion annually into the regional economy and support 25,000 ongoing jobs. And that's in addition to the 5,000 or so construction jobs that will be in place for the next 2 years while construction is going on. We'll also bring some investments in affordable housing, youth programs, and workforce training for the surrounding neighborhoods. We really worked hard to develop a community benefits partnership agreement with local residents and local labor interests around Aggie Square, because we want those folks to feel like they're a part of the Aggie Square success story and a part of UC Davis. And Aggie Square was something that was done with them and not to them. So that's really the goal. We've committed to filling at least 20% of the jobs that get created by Aggie Square with people from the 3 zip codes surrounding the project. So it's all looking very positive. Stay tuned. I want to mention just a few other highlights, starting with rankings. UC Davis is right where it should be, near the top. Forbes named us number 4 among public universities in the nation. And they said, quote, for the most outstanding education to the broadest range of students at the most affordable price. Wall Street Journal had us number 5 among publics, and US News has us tied for 10th among publics. But what did they know? I'm also especially proud of a couple of other rankings I'll just mention. First, the university's commitment to sustainability is reflected again in the Green Metric World University Rankings. UC Davis is ranked number 1 in North America for campus sustainability for the 6th consecutive year. And we are also number 1 in the nation for campus diversity, inclusiveness, and internationalization in the QS World University Rankings. So this university has engaged the entire campus community and is making great progress in our strategic plan goal to make UC Davis a higher education model of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that ranking is also the 2nd year in a row, number 1 in diversity. So the word is definitely out now that UC Davis is the place to be, and proof of that is in last fall's number of applications that we received, or last fall's number of applications we received for next fall. We received more than 110,000 applications for freshmen or transfer students to start with us in 2022. That's a 4% increase in the previous year, and only 9 or at the most 10,000 of those 110,000 applicants will actually land here. So it's a very competitive situation. When those emails go out, when acceptances go out, I get sort of a bimodal distribution of email in my inbox. I get everybody who's very excited and happy and pleased that their son, daughter, niece, nephew is getting in. And then I get another group who's not as happy because their student had a 7.8 GPA and 1,000 on the SAT, and they didn't get in. It's unfortunate. It's just very competitive. We don't have enough physical slots for the number of qualified students, and that's just the situation we're in. We've been setting a few other records as well, both in research funding and philanthropy. We set a new record for research awards in 2021 with $968 million in research awards. That's about a 30% increase over the past 10 years. We will know very soon, by the end of June 2022, what the number is for this year, but we are on track to surpass $1 billion in research awards this year, which will be a big milestone. There's only a couple of dozen universities in the country that hit that mark, and we think we're going to do it this year, so look for that. We also recorded the greatest fundraising year in our history last year. In 2021, we raised a record $269.4 million from 36,000 donors. And last month, Gift Day, we set a record with $4.1 million raised on Gift Day. It's really inspiring to see how people want to support the university. And I know that many of you are consistent donors, and thank you so much for all of that, for all of you that are donors to the university. Sean Kaiser thinks we can maybe hit $300 million in philanthropy this year as well. There's a couple of major gifts that will tell the tale whether we get there or not, but we have it in our sights. Now, before I just move on to taking questions, I want to take a moment to recognize Mike Chandler as he wraps up his third and final year as president of the Retirees Association. Mike helped move the association forward over the last 3 years and has had an indelible impact on the welfare of our retirees. Mike, your leadership, collaboration has really made a huge difference, especially as we navigated this pandemic. So thank you so much for all you've done in those 3 years. We should give Mike a Also, we'd just like to quickly recognize the UC Davis Emeriti Retiree Award winners in 21-22. They are Ken Burtis, Distinguished Emeritus Award winner for 22. I don't think Ken's here. By the way, Ken has also been helping us with Healthy Davis Together, as many of you know. And Healthy Davis Together just surpassed 2 million asymptomatic tests over the past 2 years. And Ken tells me that is about 8 50-gallon barrels of saliva.
That's a good.
I also want to recognize Howard Fenris, Halafu Osamare, and Frederick Gorin, all our distinguished award winners in 2022. And Police Chief Emeritus Calvin Handy, the Retirees Association Picnic Day honoree in 2022. Congratulations to all on well-deserved recognition. And with that, I'm happy to take a few questions if you have some. Yes.
Driving up here, I drove past the Gorman Museum construction.
Yes.
About when will that be open?
We hope sometime in the fall. I don't have a date yet that I've been told, but it's a renovation. Since it's not new construction, renovation a little bit faster, but maybe sometime in the fall.
So I'm not volunteering, but I understand that hiring has been a challenge. And I know that several years ago, they made a lot of changes to whether or not retirees could return. It made it very difficult to get called back. And I'm just wondering if you chancellors in the system, if you all are talking at all about the possibility of that, especially in the service.
Yeah, so we haven't had that conversation among chancellors, but we certainly are interested in doing that here. We've had retirees return, Ken as an example. But we haven't talked about any policy changes along those lines. But you are correct in that staffing is hard. retention is hard. People have gotten used to working remotely and want to continue doing that. And not everyone can do that effectively. So we've got some thinking to do about how we want the workplace to look going forward that we're still struggling with. Struggling is not the right word. We're still thinking about. But we would love to have as many people, if retirees are interested in coming back on board for, whatever, we'd love to have your services. But if you're not, we're happy with your volunteerism as well, whatever works. Anything else? Oh, sorry.
I understand there's a student referendum on fees coming up.
It's a no. What was referring to is there was a fee referendum to remove the contribution of the student fees to athletics. There are two fees in question, the so-called SASE fee and the CEI fee, and I forget what both of those acronyms stand for, but 2 weeks ago, the CUCRA-CUCEA, our Committee on Student Fees, which is comprised of students, voted for those two referenda not to go forward. And so what the student government has decided to do is to basically hold I guess you would call it a survey or a poll. So in concert with the elections that are happening now, started yesterday, student government elections for ASUCD, they have a question on the ballot that has to do with whether or not the students would like to continue supporting the fees. And as you know, when you do survey research or any kind of survey, the way you pose the question has a lot to do with what answer you will get. And so I'll just say as diplomatically as I can, that the way they pose the question, we will not be surprised by the outcome. If I did a poll and said, how many of you would like to pay taxes next year? I could predict the outcome. So it's that, however, I will say that the student athletes, the band, the students who work in ICA, and many other students who support athletics are also aware of this survey and are participating as well. So it may not turn out as the author intended.
I guess my follow-up, really my real question was, if it does pass or if the fees are reduced, what do you have any plans for what the athletics will look like?
Well, it won't pass now because the COSAP group did not recommend it to go forward. So there's no official policy change that will happen as a result of this survey. It could come up again next year, potentially. But, and by the way, even if it did pass, even if there was an official vote that passed, it's only advisory to the chancellor. It's not binding. So I would have to make a decision on whether to accept the results of the referendum or not. But fortunately, I don't have to make such a decision. All right, thank you. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Chancellor May, for joining us. We always appreciate your time. Well, I'm going to give some updates from the Retiree Center, and I realize I don't know all of you. I know most of you, but I'm Kyle Urban. I serve as the director of the Retiree Center. Wanted to give a shout out to Julianne Crowley in the back. She's our assistant director of the Retiree Center. And then earlier you checked in with Thea Shinoy, who's our student assistant at the Retiree Center. And the three of us make up the current Retiree Center team. As you can imagine, it has been a little bit of a challenge over the last year plus for us, not in a bad way, but we've had to adapt to new technology. There's now a camera filming us when we're up here speaking. Many of you have taken advantage of the programs that we've been able to run from the facility to your home or from our houses to your houses. You've met some of our animals that we have in our households, and you've gotten to see us in shirts and ties and basketball shorts, unbeknownst to you. So it's been quite an experience, and we're happy to have some sense of normalcy. I know that we're still in this mass recommended phase. We're still doing daily symptom surveys, and I anticipate that those are going to continue for some time, given the recent small uptick that the Chancellor mentioned. But I would say that 21-22 was a successful year for the Retiree Center. We kind of had to battle through a lot. As you know, we came back to work with a very strict set of rules that was putting us in our offices with our door closed, masks on, in kind of a non-interactive space, which wasn't our favorite way to operate. We had a lot of ups and downs, including January, where we were told to go back home for a while. We went home for winter break, thinking that we'd be coming back to our offices, and a week before we were scheduled to be back in the office, that rug was pulled out and we were told to stay in place. So we've had a lot of things change, and we've been able to keep a pretty consistent schedule for you, albeit with sometimes food miscommunications. Sorry about that today. Glad we were able to get you something. But it's been good, and I think looking forward, you'll continue to see more hybrid type events from us. Today's meeting is technically not a hybrid meeting, like I mentioned earlier, because we're all in person, the folks that are attending, but we will try to share that recording either later today or later this week with folks that couldn't make it. We've been able to have a busier event schedule in the Retiree Center than we did pre-COVID. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's felt like we've been doing something, sometimes 2 events about every week, every other week. And we're trying to keep you all engaged as much as possible. I always use these opportunities to mention that if there is something we are not doing, a topic we have not covered, a speaker that you know that would be excellent for us, please do reach out to me directly or to the Retiree Center or to Julianne or Dia. We're happy to incorporate folks into our schedule going forward, and we want to make sure that we're offering programming that's interesting to you. Some highlights from the Retiree Center, since this is our last joint meeting of the year, I figured I'd give you a few. Many of you know that we serve as the host for transitioning to retirement courses annually. So we do 4 courses, both for staff and faculty. We used to split those between Sacramento and Davis, but now we do them all online. You may think not quite as interactive, but you'd be surprised. We're getting higher participation numbers, particularly from faculty. Our numbers have almost doubled in the faculty category. Staff have always been pretty participatory in the series, but people are also watching the YouTube recordings of these series all the way through retirement season. So we've really created something that continues to be helpful without us having to do too much, except for say, hey, you should watch this as the year goes on. You may have seen, you probably haven't, but over the last 6 weeks, we've started a preparing for retirement help desk series with our partners at Fidelity, Spencer and Kim, as well as our friend over at the benefits of the health system, Don Goldberg, Aaron Lokiel on the Davis campus, and Garen Solbach, who many of you know well, our healthcare facilitator. What we're doing to help people that are in the retirement process right now, because as you know, July 1 is the most popular retirement date, is hosting these series, and we're emailing through HR and also through our office to everyone that attended our sessions to say, hey, we're here for 2 hours. Come ask us any question that you have to help ease your brain. We're the only campus on the UC system that's able to do that. I'd say it's a combination of personnel and also just making it work with technology. And so far it's been really successful. We've had between 200 and 300 people for the first 2 sessions. We've got another one next week. It is a great way to boost attendance numbers in the Retiree Center's end of year reports. But more importantly, I think it's really helping folks retire. You may know this, you may not, but the retirement system has been going through its share of challenges over the last couple of years, and John Meyer will give us a little update on this later. But it's meant that the Retiree Center, namely Julianne and myself, are getting a lot more general retirement questions than the center has ever gotten. Not only process questions, but very specific things about when do I submit this? What do I submit? What does it look like? How do we navigate this online software? And it's made our jobs a smidgen more difficult, but we know that we're having an impact on folks. And so we're doing what we're here to do, which is to serve all of you and also to serve current employees that are looking to retire. So apologies if we're a little busy for the rest of May and bleeding into June, July, probably some frustrated people in August. That said, we're doing everything we can to try and do it all, and leaning a lot on our partners in Aaron, Spencer, Kim, Don, and Aaron, as mentioned. The Retiree Center continues to serve as a hub of escalation for RASC issues. So if any of you run into issues, if you encounter a survivor who doesn't know what the first step is when their spouse or partner passes away, or a friend across the street passes away, as often happens, you can always contact us. We do have the, this is a morbid thing, but we have the opportunity through our office now to death report, which has really helped the survivor process get expedited and move along quicker. So it's something that we fought for to have access to. Not my favorite part of the job, typing those in, but if you have survivors or folks in the community that are struggling with pension benefits or survivor benefits, please do reach out to me directly or reach out to Julianne directly. We've been kind of doing our best to be good stewards of that. And I think most people will tell you that we do a fairly good job of advocating on your behalf if we know you or someone you know is struggling with retirement benefits issues. And the last thing, this is a really good time for us, well, at least in about a month when we're done with a pretty hefty event schedule, to sort of recharge in the Retiree Center. The plans going forward are to get back to doing the things that we've always done with a twist. So we want to continue with hybrid programming. Whether you know it or not, we're reaching people across state lines, across county lines, and across international borders in some instances at our events. And so our engagement numbers from those of you here in attendance to those folks that tune in from home have never been higher. And we're pretty proud of that. And we've kind of crossed into the frontier. You can tell this is not that difficult for us to set up in a lot of situations. Now, if the internet went out, we'd be in trouble. That said, we've kind of learned how to tune this in, and hopefully you're able to enjoy some of that hybrid programming. But it's a priority for us to keep you engaged in person too, if time and health allows. So we're happy that many of you joined us here today. One thing I wanted to mention, because many of you in this room have actually been on them, but we're planning on getting back into the bus trip business. Something that we really enjoyed doing before the pandemic started. It's been about 3 years. Fuel costs are very high. Buses are a little harder to corral, and we may have to wear masks on board buses, which obviously not the most pleasant thing, but that's the guidance for public transit right now. So just know that those things might be in place, but we hope to be getting you on a bus and going somewhere cool directly from campus here shortly. And by shortly, I mean August, September, October, a little later on. Again, contact us if you have any recommendations, and I'm going to walk us through briefly just how the flow of the rest of today is going to go. The first thing, John Meyer is going to give us an update on the RASC and also the Council of UC Retiree Associations. John is a past president of our Retirees Association. He currently serves as the president of the system-wide version of our retiree association, so CUCRA. He's a big deal in the retiree community, and I can tell you just from observation that he's done a lot in advocating for all of you, serving on UC-wide committees, not only having to do with your health benefits directly, but also hiring committees for new leadership at the RASC and helping to make some fundamental changes that'll benefit you in the future. So I look forward to that. Next to John is Joanne Boorkman. Joanne's a past president of the Emeriti Association and the incoming.
Yeah, I'm currently incoming.
Yeah, the currently incoming president of the Council of UC Emeriti Associations. This is a pretty unique position for Davis to be in, to have leadership in both of those associations. There's a lot of pull coming from our campus that's impacting retiree health and welfare, as well as your pension and benefits and things that impact all of you, but also current employees. So John and Joanne will speak to us. And then shortly after Joanne, we'll have Sue Barnes, who you saw on the way in. Of course, Sue is the former Retiree Center director at UC Davis, but also at UCLA after that. And Sue's been heavily involved in the CUCRA travel program, so she's going to talk about that after. And John, I'm just going to ask that you call Joanne up when you're done. Joanne, I'll ask that you call Sue. I'll leave an agenda right here. But otherwise, John Meyer.
Thanks, Kyle. It is a privilege to be the lead advocate, in the organizations that are the lead advocates with the mothership in Oakland, University, Office of the President. And as you can imagine, the issues are really in parallel between the Emeriti Association and the Retirees Association. So we're really doing much of this effort jointly. The relationship between the two groups, it would be hard to imagine it could be any better. So that is the opportunity. The challenge is, man, there is a bucket of issues. So let me just go over some of those for those that don't know. So the Retirement Administration Service Center, known as the RAS, has had some challenges. I would say that our assessment is it's really on the rebound, that there's some new leadership. So first, we have a new vice president of human resources at OP, Cheryl Lloyd, who's been there a while, was in charge of all the risk programs. In my mind is a star, and in some ways doesn't own these problems initially. So she has come in and said, which are always the magic words to me, Houston, we have a problem. Meaning, I hear you, I understand, we agree that some of these things are not up to standard and we're gonna work on them. I think what we've been able to do though, based on meetings with some, is to really illustrate some of the issues that they didn't realize or hadn't heard rise up as problems. So let me give you the one primary example that we started with like 18 months ago, perhaps, of survivors benefits. So you may not know, but at the time you were at maybe your most vulnerable when you lose a partner, you could have your pension benefit interrupted by 6 months. No funding, no payments, and that could also threaten your health insurance. I think, when we started to engage on this, that while some of the RAS might have known that, we'll say prior leadership of the RAS might have known that. Not sure leadership at the Office of the President was aware of that. And once they heard about that and heard that you could be a new widower at this challenging time in your life and had no idea your income was going to be interrupted for up to 6 months. And even though people say, well, it's retroactive and it'll get made up, some people still have mortgage payments, their expenses, they eat still. So that could be a major shock at a time when your life is already shaken. So I think we also have a new director of the RASC, first brought in on an interim basis and now named permanently. And they just had approved by the president a new budget augmentation that's going to create a unit dedicated to survivors. So separate phone number, separate processing, and also looking at institutional changes, that is structural changes in the retirement plan. That may mean there are at least interim ways to keep payments flowing, similar to those that retire now. While the paperwork might not be done, you can apply to have sort of a no interruption in payments plan until all your retirement paperwork shakes out. So that's what they're looking at with survivors, which I would argue is a huge turnaround. And as I think based on us helping bubble that up, because I think the key leadership wasn't aware of how drastic that program was. So when you tell a Vice President Rachel Nava and now a President Michael Drake that it's in none of our interest to have a San Francisco Chronicle article that highlights a spouse that has been without income for 6 months at one of the most vulnerable times in their life, they get it. So I think plans are in place to do that. Is that resolved now? No, but are plans in place and budgets approved and a structure and a plan to resolve it? I think that has arrived. So, the truth is we'll see, 6 months from now, has that all been implemented? But I think we would agree that it's sort of on a hopeful path. Another issue that some of you might experience is yet another pharmacy benefits manager, the 5th in 7 years. This one called Navitus. There have been other words used for it by some other people. It's just causing huge disruption in people's lives. So again, do you really want the San Francisco Chronicle article that says someone undergoing chemotherapy is being told by the pharmacist that the drug is no longer approved in the formulary, and if you want to pay cash, that would be $5,000. So that has risen to the top. I think that we have advised that there's a structural problem in our view at the Office of the President, where UC Health makes decisions for all self-insured health plans. That's basically all health plans other than Kaiser, and might have a different value set in making those decisions, that is reduce costs, compared to the Human Resources Organization. So there is some move and advocacy on our part to get the insurance administration all under HR and out of UC Health. UC Health is an amazing place, does phenomenal things, provides world-class healthcare. Whether they are the best insurance administrator, we would argue not. So we're asking for that shift within the Office of the President. We had the opportunity to have President Drake speak to us at the joint CUCRA-CUCEA conference 2 weeks ago. And we made sure he was briefed on that issue because we think the Navitas issue was, a self-inflicted tragedy. And he, I think to his credit, some of the first comments out of his mouth, even, we were all prepared to have a question and answer session. He just ran with it and opened with basically, I interpreted an apology. This is not up to standard. We need to fix this. And also RASC has other issues where if anyone's trying to call on the phone, you sort of have to set aside a day because sometimes the average wait times can be 5 hours. So one of the fun parts of this position is you have an ex officio position on the UC Retirement System Advisory Board. So this is the actual pension that the treasurer manages. We had Jagdeep in a webcast. Some of you might have seen that. So boy, that gives you amazing confidence that they know how to manage those retirement funds. The only reason I mention that is at a recent Retiree Advisory Board meeting, Fidelity was apologizing that they're called wait times. Went from from 30 seconds to a minute. And a RASC wait time can be 5 hours. So the leadership of RASC gets it. They have new management staff. Joanna and I were on interview panels for them. The person who manages this whole phone queue system is sort of on the caper. But again, it doesn't turn on a dime. It takes new systems to be acquired, new staff in place. But again, we think the trajectory is good, but we try to be supportive and patient, but I think we're all at the place of, okay, we think we will have turned the corner in 6 months. If that's not the case, we probably have to adopt a new strategy. So other things are out there, but I thought those were the most important things to share with you because those are the ones that really affect your lives. Please welcome Joanne Boorkman.
Joanne, you didn't take questions. You bet. If you have time, I'd be happy to, except for Mike.
It was his privilege to do that. Anyway, thank you, John, for explaining all those things. We were on many of the same committees, continue to be on many of those committees. I had the distinct, Joanne, speak a little over into this. Okay, I'll stand over here. Anyway, we were on the same committees in many cases. It's always a pleasure to work with John, and we meet with the RASC monthly. And I was on a survivor benefits working group for the last 18 months, and it's finally coming to a point where we think things are going to start to turn the corner. And so I'm very pleased about that and share John's optimism that it's not over, but we're on the right track. They have some really terrific staff, new staff, who are from outside for the most part, and they're bringing skills and background and knowledge and applying it and turning some of the RASC practices around. And they have now been given the okay from the president to hire some additional staffing, which will help ease all of these things. And one of the things that
when I first learned about this, and we were all having problems years ago with just logging in and getting our passwords right, because they had new ones and it was all new. They were operating under the system that it should be a self-service system, and you can do everything online. You don't need that many people. Well, they didn't really understand that the demographic group they're working with, all of us old folks, are not that comfortable, and as we get older, we're even less comfortable, and we don't have teenagers there at our elbows helping us. They finally got it. So they've got a new telephone system that they're trying, and they've got some partners coming along that are going to be giving people callbacks. So one of the things that issues across the board has been, you turn your information in, your documents in, you don't know whether they got there, whether they've been reviewed, where you are in the process. You are going to be, or should be expecting calls to let you know that we're on your case and we're going to take care of it, and we might not have a deadline when you can have everything done, but you at least know that things are in the works. And that is a huge improvement, and it will be especially important for the survivors as they go through this process of getting reestablished into the RASC system, because you have to be enrolled before you can get a pension payment. Anyway, so I'm just thought I would add a little bit to John's report, because I think it's really important that you understand that they are listening to us as we bring issues forward. And if you have issues that you'd like us to bring forward, we'll be glad to raise them. We're not shy. So I just have a few things from the CUCEA meeting to say that we have a new website for CUCEA. This is the System-Wide Emeriti Association. It has been with the new webmaster, Joel Dimsdale from San Diego. It's CUCEA, CUCEA.org, and it's been redesigned and it looks pretty good. And Jim Chalfant, who was UC Davis Emeritus Professor, is going to be the new webmaster, and he and Joel are working on getting things up to date. And one of the things that the reason that I'm bringing this up is that Joel said one of the issues is keeping information about the various campus emeriti activities and awards up to date through the system-wide web, was that people weren't very consistent in sharing that information. We call and say, can you get this by the end before our next meeting? And sometimes somebody said something in, some they wouldn't. UC Davis has a direct link from our Emeriti Association webpage that is kept up to date. So we just have that link now on CUCEA's webpage. So if we update things here, the Retiree Center updates our page for us as we have new awardees for any of our awards. It's automatically available there. And they were complimenting us on that's the easiest way to do that and keep everybody up to date. So Davis is taking the lead in lots of ways system-wide, not just in our positions here, but in other areas too. We just completed the 10th Emeriti Activities Survey. Julie, who is a member of our Emeriti Association as a former faculty member at Davis, but she's also an emeritus faculty member from Irvine. She coordinated it this year. It's on the CUCEA website, and we'll be bringing campus print copies shortly. It was designed to also elicit how many people continue to be active during the pandemic in their teaching, research, publications, service activities, and it went down a little bit, but most people said, I was keeping up and doing the same things. I got a lot more publications done because I had time and couldn't go anywhere anyway. So that was very positive, and I think it speaks well to how resilient we all are, and including retirees as well, because your survey showed that retirees from UC Davis and UC are very active, both with the university and the community in their retirement. And moving forward, we want to build on some of this. We had Provost Michael Brown as our guest at our meeting and had a Q&A with him. And one of the things that he's stressing, even as he's leaving, is that we need to promote the mission of the University of California more broadly, not just within our campus communities, but the value of UC education to the state of California, to not just the economic statistical numbers, but the social values. And I think there's a way we can continue some of those conversations. So the CUCEA is going to be continuing to build our connections with the provost's office and keeping conversations that emeriti can continue to be active and support the university in any way we can. So thank you. I think I will turn it over to Sue because she's going to talk about the travel program, which is what we're all hoping to be able to do shortly.
I do. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Am I doing something wrong? I'm touching the screen. So,
It might be your cell phone.
that's what it is. It's you.
Let's check.
It's your electric personality. I know. Okay, let's see. Okay, thank you, Kyle. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Sue Barnes. I retired from UCLA 3 years ago, but I worked for 22 years here at UC Davis, 7 years of which was as the director of the Retiree Center, one of Kyle's predecessors here at the center. So my husband would tell you I failed retirement because I have a part-time job and I coordinate two programs that do excursions for retirees. One is the Davis Travel Airs, a local group here. We do day trips. I'm not going to talk about that today, but if you want information about our day trips, you can see me. I have my table at the entrance. But what I am going to tell you about today is the UC Retiree Travel Program. And this is a program that actually has been in existence for about 30 years. And I took over as the volunteer coordinator when I retired in 2019, planned several trips. And then, of course, we all know what happened in 2020. So we have been on a pandemic related closure for 2 years, but excitingly just took our first trip. We had two departures actually go to Spain and Portugal in March, and I was the escort for one of those departures, and it was a fabulous trip. We did have a group that just got back from Belgium, France, and the Netherlands. They had a fabulous time. So if you're ready to travel, we have some opportunities for you. So we have coming up, if you don't want to go too far from home, we have an Islands of New England trip coming up in August that still has space. We have a fabulous train journey in the Canadian Rockies that has just a few spaces that have opened up. We have a trip to Cuba, which as some of you probably know, Cuba is not easy to travel to, but we work with one company that has a license to travel to Cuba. So that'll be coming up in October. We have just a few spaces in that. And then I'm escorting a trip to Chile and Argentina in November and December. My excursion is full, but we have a second excursion going that has one single space left. So if there's one single traveler, you can join that trip. 2023, we've already booked all of our trips, and they are already filling up. We're going to Egypt, we're going to South Africa. That trip's about half full already. I'm escorting a trip to Japan. My departure is full except for one single space, and we have a second departure that we just opened up. We're going back again to Spain and Portugal because it was such a fabulous trip. Going to Ireland, we're doing a river cruise of the Rhine and Moselle rivers, and we're going to Cuba again because that one was so popular this year. And I'm escorting a trip to Iceland, which is about half full already. So there's plenty of opportunities. If you're ready to go, I will be out at the table. You can come and get more information from me. We have information on our website, of course, on all of the trips. And people have questions and concerns right now about COVID, understandably. It is a risk you take, I think, if you do anything now. But I will tell you that the tour operators we work with, everybody has to be vaccinated. Most of the countries are still requiring testing. And the trips that they've been doing now since starting to travel since the pandemic has not ended, but since travel has opened up again, they've had less than 1% of the people that have tested positive on their tours. Doesn't mean that there's no risk, but it's pretty minimal. And if you do test positive, as long as you purchase the insurance from the tour operators, they will take care of you. They will get you quarantined, make sure you get food, and rebook your flights. So if you're ready to go, we've got trips there. So thank you.
Thanks to Sue, John, and Joanne. It doesn't sound like a bad deal. It sounds like you're going on a few nice trips as a result. So hard work paying off there, which is great. A couple of things I wanted to mention in lieu of John and Joanne's comments too that I didn't mention earlier. So we mentioned that there's been some leadership change at RASC. One of the cool things that they've been doing is meeting monthly with Retiree Center directors. That's been going on for the last couple of years. But more intentionally over the last year, which includes some accessibility to features with sort of a shadow system called UC Roots. That's what allows our death reporting and things that come from the office. It also allows me to look up your individual profiles and see if I can notice any glaring errors. I don't see any of your documents that you submit, any of that all goes to RASC, but it does give us a window into that. Another piece, John mentioned the lovely hold times that we have currently at the RASC. They have implemented a callback feature on a lot of days. Sometimes it closes at noon, sometimes it closes at 2. That's been shifting because during retirement season and also dealing with the fallout of these retirement benefits pieces, their phone lines have been pretty busy. Julianne does a good job on a weekly basis, and I try to do the same, sort of checking what hold times are like. So our testing, I guess, is going on, and we don't wait the full 500 minutes, but we get the idea for you so that when you call, we have an idea of how we can better serve you if you're locked out of your account or any of those things. But when the callback feature is in place, just so you know, if you have to call the RASC specifically, they will call you back. But sometimes it may take a week. But if you call again, it resets your place in the queue a lot of times because they match up with one phone number. So I would recommend if you call and leave a message for RASC, leave it be, trust the process, and let them call you back for that. And I will tell you that I was invited and accepted the invitation along with Garen Solbach, our healthcare facilitator, to serve as testers for their new phone system. So it requires us waiting on hold for 5 hours. Just kidding. It's an hour session for setup, and then they're going to give us 2 hours to really go in and play with every option. It's a new telephony system. It's supposed to clear things up quite a bit. I will test it as hard as I can and ask you for feedback if there's any opportunity to give it, but we're looking forward to that opportunity. And we do have like 5 minutes, so I know that John and Joanne are good sources of information, and if you both are comfortable, I'd love to just have some Q&A, and then I'll explain real quick before we do that what we're going to do. So sorry to the Retirees Association folks, we're going to make you sit outside on a beautiful day at chairs. We have 2 business meetings, so if you are an association member, you're invited to join those meetings. So the Emeriti Association will stay in here. It'll be led by Marcy Greenwood. The Retirees Association, we're just going to pop open these doors for you. We've got some seating set up outside at rounds. Mike is he can talk loud enough to hear over the squirrels and the ducks out there. So no problems there, but that we'll have quick business meetings as a result of this. But I'll bring up John and Joanne. And then if there aren't any questions, then I guess we'll just release everybody, and I'm going to open up the doors while we do that.